Hello, good afternoon. Here we are, another day, January the 26th. Today is India's Republic Day. Do you know what a Republic Day is? Don't mistake that for Independence Day. So there are two different days India has. There's the Republic Day, that is January the 26th, and there is an Independence Day, which is August the 15th. Today is the Republic Day. You might want to, see. I just put the cursor in the search box and it says trending now, Republic Day 2022 live. And all the other things that are trending on Microsoft Bing in the Indian territory. I am not going to be looking at those. Or should I? What do you think? Let's do that. Let's start there. So, news about Republic Day 2022 live. And this is the day when the armed forces of India, all the different ones, there's the Navy, the military, and the Air Force. And they go to a particular place. This place is not far from where I am right now. It's just a few miles away. And there is a parade. And the armed forces and children and all of these, they come in this parade. They go down this long path and it's a showcase of India's armed forces, India's military might, and every year they showcase the innovation in military technology, new weapons that have been added to the arsenal, technological breakthroughs, and we have dignitaries in India coming from many, many countries. The ambassadors of so many countries are here in this city where I am. That too, not many miles from where I am. I would say from my place, probably a 20-minute drive, and I could be in that area where you have the high commissions and the embassies of a lot of countries. There's the United States embassy, there's the Australian High Commission, Canadian, and so many diplomats and ambassadors and these officials are here in this city where I am. Okay, now that you know, I have some tabs open, as you can see, up on top, because I was searching for something. And what I was searching for, I'm going to enter that term once again, because I came across a story, news story that is, last night, or late evening actually, that Israel is going to give the fourth booster shot. Or is it a new therapeutic? I call it a therapeutic. I am not using the word vaccine. Some people would be turned off by the word vaccine. So, okay, I'll use the terms interchangeably. A fourth vaccine or a fourth therapeutic. It's mRNA based for all its citizens who are 18 plus, all the adults. So let's enter what I entered. Well, actually, I have that tab open, so I don't need to enter that search one more time. Israel vaccination COVID-19. And I was going through some of the results that it was showing, and as you can see, there are 906,000 results. What a world we live in. So much information. And to organize this information, that is the great accomplishment of modern technology. Hats off to the people who have built these technologies over decades. In this case, I'm using Microsoft Bing as I use as my default on my system. I've been a long time user of Google Chrome, but I find Microsoft Bing is even better. In terms of browsers, I'm using Microsoft Edge. This is the Edge browser. It is faster than Google Chrome and lighter on the system. Although my system is very good, so I don't need to worry about how much RAM it uses and how much it incorporates the processor. I have a very good processor. It's an AMD Ryzen 7, 64-bit, obviously. And I have Windows 11. I'm very happy with my system. I do go off into tangents every now and then, but that's all part of what I do. I am still focused on what I'm looking at. Excuse me, I still have that irritation in my throat. Not as bad as yesterday. So please do excuse me if I disturb you with my cough. Okay, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tabs open. I'm hoping with minimum disturbance from the outside, although I cannot predict that would be the case. I hope to go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stories in about 20 minutes or less. So let's start. This is something like Twitter. You have information cards on this website. It's called In Short. So this news is from the 24th of January. Fourth COVID-19 vaccine raises resistance to serious illness for 60 plus. Israel. Israel Health Ministry said a fourth COVID-19 vaccine dose or the second booster shot raised resistance to serious illnesses up to 3 times for people over 60 compared to those who got 3 doses. A recent Israeli study found that it increased antibodies to higher levels than third dose. Israel is currently offering second booster shot to all over 60. Let's mention a couple of things here. So I'm still just reading the news, but as some people have said about natural immunity, so in the history of humankind, natural immunity has always played a part. Now, when you look at the history of humanity, of course, you cannot go far back enough. And then also talk about bioengineered viruses. Like there has been the mention of gain-of-function research in Wuhan. And not getting into technical debate about that, but it's a legitimate point. So how does the human immune system respond to gain of function? Let me say that again. How does the natural human immunity respond to viruses designed through gain of function research? is a whole other matter. The immune system is very complicated, but to say that one can be religiously devoted to the natural immunity is going to one far end of the spectrum. It's a spectrum. So, because there are so many factors that affect the human immune system. Here, in this news item, we're looking at 60 plus. So when we're talking about 60 plus, it's another segment of the population. And then they're talking only about antibodies. And of course, they're talking about antibodies in relation to COVID-19 or SARS-CoV-2. And the human immune system confronts all kinds of viruses and dead skin and whatnot, dead cells, foods we eat, chemicals we come across, so much that the human immune system is working on at different levels. All the immune response is not incorporated to face every challenge. There are different levels to the challenge or the response. So even this term antibody, any of a large variety of proteins normally present in the body or produced in response to an antigen which it neutralizes, thus producing an immune response. So if our immune systems were working 24 hours at peak capacity, it would kill human beings. We don't want the immune system to be working at peak capacity all the time. We only want the immune system to work in accordance with the challenge. For instance, would you like to be running a fever, 103, 104 fever day after day, because your immune system is working? Of course not. You would not want that. If that happened, it will destroy the human body. The internal organs would suffer. The human being would suffer. Of course, quality of life would suffer. So many things. So the immune system is a miracle. That is true. But the immune system works not in how a religion would convey. There's more in-depth understanding to how the immune system works. Oh, let me, before opening the other news, I'm still thinking, way past what this news item is about, but when I was growing up, the elderly members in my family and society here in India, I first grew up in India, then I spent several years in the United States as well. Big cultural difference, of course. But here in India, while growing up, the elderly ones used to say something, that human beings should not be in close proximity to certain animals and birds. And they just said, oh, these are dirty animals, or these are dirty birds. And some of these birds and animals should never be considered as part of what a human being can consume. But generally also, animals and birds carry, they didn't use the word germs or pathogens, or they definitely didn't use the word bacteria or viruses, but they just said that these creatures can be carriers of disease. So to be cautious, certain animals and birds you are always to stay away from. Never think they can be part of the human food chain. Do you think that makes sense? It makes perfect sense to me. So I just wanted to mention that. And we're already past the 15-minute point. Anyhow, we are going to be persistent, we are going to be determined, and we are going to read more. I hope you stay along with me. Here, this is a very interesting subject. And this is from Times Herald. I would confess this is the first time I'm reading something from this news source. But I like the headline. Why don't we have COVID-19 vaccines for new variants? New variants are the vaccine version of whack-a-mole. So let me read this. And of course, as always, every tab I have opened, I'm going to take the link from there and put it in the video description. So you can go through the articles that I'm going through. I hope you benefit from that. Sorry. Excuse me. Okay, what does it say? Every fall, pharmacies fill with fresh influenza vaccines, tailored for nature's latest version of that miserable bug after it emerges half a world away. As the COVID-19 vaccine's protection wanes against newer variants of the coronavirus, like Omicron, shouldn't those shots be reformulated as well? Well, at this point, of course, people are going to say, well, I never had the flu shot. So why would I worry about the COVID-19 vaccine? And they wouldn't be wrong in using this logic, other than the fact you have to consider comorbidities, age group, your existing present health condition, and all that. And this is an airborne virus, like the flu. So you have to take those things into consideration. And also, it's wrong to equate COVID-19 with the flu. Not the symptoms. Don't think in terms of symptoms. Think in terms of the syndrome. That would help clarify why. So you might want to research, is the flu the same as COVID-19? You could search that. And when you go past the symptoms, you would find the differences. And this is knowledge that came later, very quickly, in fact, I would say, but at a later time, as doctors and scientists began to understand the effects of SARS-CoV-2. So if people are still repeating that line, COVID-19 is just like the flu, that is an indication these people have not improved upon their knowledge. Easy way to tell. Okay, how much have I gone apart from what is written here? Let's continue. It's time for an updated version. Dr. Michael Lidd, an associate professor of neurobiology and bioengineering at Stanford University, said on Twitter this past week, after a fourth dose of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine delivered only partial protection against infection from the virus, according to a study in Israel, They said it would be easy, so just do it already. So why do they say it's easy? Because of the mRNA technology. It's easier to design new vaccines with the mRNA technology, vaccine technology. Because mRNA is used apart from vaccines as well. And it has been in use. mRNA technology has been in use for a long time. Even you'd find references to that in the 80s and 90s. I came across references, so that's how I know. It was used in cancer treatment very early on in the 90s. After 1995 or somewhere around that time, it was already started to be used in therapeutics and for cancer treatment. And of course, now the field has grown, so it would be used even more. It is a medical revolution. With the flu, we can predict that we will see in the winter. Sorry, I'll read that again. With the flu, we can predict what we'll see in the winter, but with COVID, it's shape-shifting. You're playing whack-a-mole because who knows what's coming next, said Dr. Peter Chin Hong, a medical professor and infectious disease specialist at UC San Francisco. That's why it's so frustrating. That's another difference. So how do they predict what the flu will be like? Let's be a little siding with conspiracy theorists and say they're the ones who design the next flu variant. So obviously they know which vaccine they should be using for it. Is there truth to that? I could say perhaps there is truth to that. How to say that is not possible? There could be truth to that. But then they could also have some modeling, computer modeling, with which, through gene sequencing or however those computer models work, I don't know the details. But they have advanced information that these are the mutations that are possible. And nobody is going to say, well, you have to take the flu vaccine. Nobody's going to enforce that on you. It's not mandatory. So that's another point. Excuse me. Sorry. And with the COVID-19, there are a lot of things politically that are wrong. But there's also the scientific challenge, and there's also the interest in using mRNA vaccine technology. There are other vaccines as well, but in the US especially, or in Israel, as you would say, in this case, the emphasis on mRNA vaccines is number one. The ones made by Moderna and the BioNTech-Pfizer alliance take precedence over all others. That is the truth right now. Here, fourth COVID-19 vaccine dose less effective against Omicron, Israel study shows. Let's enlarge the text. How big? 175% is, oh, there was a feature to larger font here as well. Anyhow, an Israeli hospital on Monday said preliminary research indicates a fourth dose of the coronavirus vaccine provides only limited defense against the Omicron variant that is raging around the world. I've heard this name many times. Sheba Hospital last month began administering a fourth vaccine to more than 270 medical workers. Excuse me, there's some sound from the outside. I'm going to mute the mic for a minute. Okay, sorry about that. As I said, they're local businesses, a restaurant in particular, and they're busy with their kitchen duties. So all those sounds and interferences. Getting back, Shiva Hospital last month began administering a fourth vaccine to more than 270 medical workers, 150 who received a Pfizer BioNTech vaccine, and 120 others who received Moderna's. All had previously been vaccinated 3 times with the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine. And what are people going to say, those who have been observing events? Immune fatigue, immune system fatigue. So many vaccines in 1 year, 3, now fourth, and the immune system is triggered every time a new vaccine is given. And you keep doing that, and you're doing something which is manipulating the immune response. So, is it a good practice to keep giving vaccines like this? And the insistence is on vaccines. The insistence is not on good health. It's not like the government is saying, okay, let us give supplements, vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin K, zinc. Let's put these supplements as part of the therapy program for all our citizens. These are inexpensive. The government can easily arrange for that. Let's provide these and leave the option for vaccination to those who wish to have it. How would that be? Would that be a reasonable approach? As a lot of people have been saying. In my mind, as you divide the population and don't make it a goal to win against the virus, that point, that line was crossed a couple of years ago. A couple of years ago, had they locked down the area where the virus came out from in Wuhan, if they had locked down the city and did the most strenuous testing and blocked anyone going out of the city, blocked anything coming into the city, and just made that city the focal point and cut it off from the world. They looked for every positive case and treated those people, those who were the hosts for the virus. And that might have been when you could say you could win against the virus. Win against the virus that leaked from the lab. And then there's a natural origin theory. People would still say, yes, that is also possible. So if it's in nature, then it's a totally different story. But as far as the lab leak is concerned, that is what could and should have been done then. The time this thing happened, it came to the knowledge of those who knew it. They should have been on the task within minutes, not even hours, minutes, and for a specified time. Let's say, had they taken 1 month to ensure this. For 1 month, they locked down Wuhan, especially area around the lab, screen everyone working in the lab, and for 1 month, the Chinese government had taken, and the US government with its NIH had done this. The story around the world would be totally different. We wouldn't be talking about Israel in the context of this illness or this vaccine. Here's another interesting article. It came up while looking for what I searched. What did I search? I searched for Israel vaccination COVID-19, and this is one of the stories that came up. This is in a source called Deseret News. I thought it was Desert News, but this is Deseret News. Were side effects from the COVID-19 vaccine all in your head? Daryl Austin, 3 hours ago. I'm going to put the link for this there as well. Excuse me, there's some sound coming from outside. Just allow me to pause this, mute the mic for a moment. Sorry, I think a lot of listeners will just lose patience. But if you're patient like me, it's not an issue. For a few seconds or a minute, a little break, it's not a big deal. If it's for you, then I'm sorry. It shouldn't be. Get used to it. Till the day I have my own studio. Then you won't have these disturbances. Anyhow, let's listen to this. Were side effects from the COVID-19 vaccine all in your head? Sorry. Excuse me. I'm also creating disturbances that would come with me to the studio. Those adverse COVID-19 vaccine side effects your friend told you they experienced may have been all in their head, according to a recent study conducted by researchers at Harvard Medical School and Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center. The study represents a meta-analysis of 12 vaccine trials with a total of 45,380 participants. The researchers found that 76% of the adverse side effects, such as fatigue or headache, that people experienced after receiving their first COVID-19 vaccination were also reported by participants who received a placebo shot. So there was a placebo shot. Excuse me, I'm really irritated with this. I'm very sorry about this. I'm still focusing, and I'm sorry about these sounds from the outside. It's a day off. It's Republic Day, as I said, but they are more noisy today than they usually are. Probably getting more business. I'm not going to mute the mic. You have to go through what I go through. Okay, let's read from here. Such results are known as the placebo or nocebo effect, meaning the purported side effects were not caused by the vaccine itself. What's more, while the study showed that mild adverse side effects were more common among participants who received the vaccine, more than a third of participants who received the placebo shot also reported at least one adverse side effect. I'm thinking the doctors would know that they had given a certain patient a placebo. Those researchers and doctors would be laughing to themselves. Oh, so you experienced a headache after the vaccine. Could you tell me a little more about which side of your head was hurting? The right side was hurting more. Very sorry to hear that. We will record your feedback and put it as a part of the details. Thank you for your cooperation. And all the while, the doctor knows this person has not received the COVID-19 vaccine, but rather a placebo. That has to be funny. What is a placebo? It tells us here. A placebo is an inactive treatment or substance, a sugar pill or a syringe full of saline, for instance, commonly used in medical research to establish a control group and to help scientists determine the safety and effectiveness of a treatment. The placebo effect in a person is a phenomenon where the body has a reaction or response to that inactive treatment, said Dr. Richard Dang, a president of the California Pharmacists Association and assistant professor of clinical pharmacy at the University of Southern California. So Dr. Richard Dang has a good time going through people's responses. Hopefully these responses are anonymous when they are presented before the public. Obviously they should be anonymous. They don't want, that person living there in that house, she didn't get the vaccine and she had all these side effects. That would be funny. Oh, sorry. Okay, The Hill. I'm familiar with the source. I think a lot of the listeners would be too. Expert panel in Israel recommends fourth vaccine dose for adults. Now here we get into some serious news. I'm not going to laugh about this. And I hope the disturbances have finished. Fingers crossed, like they say. An expert panel in Israel on Tuesday recommended that the nation begin administering fourth doses of COVID-19 vaccines to anyone over the age of 18, pointing to research that the additional booster helps prevent infection and severe illness, according to the Associated Press. The recommendation, which still needs to be approved by the country's health ministry director in order to go into effect, cites research that shows that the second booster provides 3 to 5 times the level of protection against serious disease from COVID-19 as 3 doses alone, notes the AP. This news came out yesterday, 6:57 p.m. So after that, I believe the decision has already been made. Okay, Israel is already administering a second booster shot. I'll close this video. Okay, Israel is already administering a second booster shot to people over the age of 60 and people at high risk while grappling with another surge, largely caused by the Omicron variant. Last week, European Union health ministers were told to ready themselves for the potential distribution of a fourth dose of the COVID-19 vaccine if it is deemed necessary, reports Reuters. I'm going to stop reading here. I've read enough. I'm going to put the links to all these news sources in the video description. And at this point, when I'm nearing 40 minutes, including the interruptions and distractions and deviations, now I am done with this. I have conveyed in the video what I wanted to convey. You know now. This is also a landmark in the ongoing history of COVID-19, Israel being the country that is the focus of attention. I'm going to stop the video now. It's 40 minutes. Thank you very much for your attention and your time. Thank you. Have a good day. Goodbye.